then Joann Hardesty will continue with the press conference.
Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Oh, turn me around. Oh, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. We're gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, walking up the freedom road. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Oh, turn me around. Oh, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. We're gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, walking up the freedom road.
All right. Let nobody turn me around.
Good morning. I'm Joann Hardesty, and I'm the president of the NAACP Portland branch and a steering committee member of the Albina Ministerial Alliance Coalition for Justice and Police Reform. I stand today in solidarity with the community in disappointment and frustration at a lack of accountability of our local police department. While Officer Freshauer is the latest Portland police officer to be returned to duty, he is by no means the only Portland police officer who should not be wearing a Portland police officer uniform. We have many examples. Officer Betsy Hornstein and Sergeant Jason Lai, L-I-L-E, are still on the force in uniform, even though they lied to the courts that Ty Grew attempted to murder them. That young man would be spending 30 years in jail had not community video exonerated him. But yet, we still wait for the city council, for the IAD, the police investigative unit, and for the so-called IPR to investigate why those officers are still in uniform. Yet they still are on the street. They still are supposedly community police officers. We also have Officer David McCarthy and Matthew Husband. You may remember those two because those were the ones that handcuffed the 9-year-old girl, put her in a squad car, took her down to jail, fingerprinted her, and then told her mother to get on the bus to come and get her. They've never been charged with anything. Yet I can't imagine having those police officers interacting with my children or any children in our community. In the case of Erin Campbell, every police officer that was involved in that tragedy had their arbitration overturned. They're all on the police force today. They're all operating in our community. That is absolutely not acceptable. And I want to also join in the compliments for Sam Adams, our former mayor, who was the first mayor that showed real leadership in attempting to keep a fired police officer fired. I don't share the joy with our current mayor because he right away said he's coming back to the job. Well, why is he not appealing? It can't be because of the cost, because we're already paying a lot of money to Chicago people to look over Portland Police Bureau to see if they are reforming. And so it can't possibly be about the money. Why are they just buckling and just allowing this guy to come back on the force? As community members, we should be fearful when any of these police officers that have been named show up on our doorstep, and I certainly don't encourage people to call the police. If you have a mental health emergency, you have a mental health number that you call. Do not call the police. They are not the ones you want to call in that kind of situation. I'm going to now turn it over to Dan, or I'm going to turn it over to Kate. Okay, Kate, you're next.
My name is Kate Lohr. I am the social justice. My name is Reverend Kate Lohr. I'm the social justice minister at First Unitarian Church in downtown Portland. I'm also a steering committee member of the Albina Ministerial Alliance Coalition for Justice and Police Reform. What I want to do today is share with you words from Erin Campbell's mother. She no longer lives in our community. She no longer feels safe in this community. But I want to bring her words into this because I too am a mother, and mothers everywhere know in a way that no one else can what it means to lose a child, a precious child. From Marvin Davis. Mr. Freischauer, you are wanting the city of Portland, the community, and the citizens to welcome you back to work. Your conduct and decisions have brought heartache to your family, my family, and the community. Aaron Campbell was standing still with his back to the police, with his hands on his head, when he was shot over and over with the beanbag shotgun. You then shot my unarmed son in the back when he was running for his life. You said you were frightened for your safety, so you killed him. In a separate incident, you tasered an innocent bystander and you cost the city thousands of dollars after the jury found you liable. Not once have you shown remorse for your actions. What you have done is wrong. Your actions violated the law. Everybody knows this. The community doesn't need people like you on the police force who act and then think later. You are a liability, and you don't value other people's lives. Putting you back on the streets is a big mistake. And we are all here because we agree.
Hello, I'm Dan Handelman. I'm with Portland Cop Watch, and I'm also a steering committee member of the AMA Coalition. The announcement you sent out for today's press conference and vigil talked about previous cases where Portland police officers have been fired or been given serious discipline, and arbitrators have put them back. That includes Scott McAllister, the man that shot and killed Kendrick James in 2003. Who was suspended for 6 months and then put back on the force. That includes the officers who threw dead possums on the doorstep of an African-American owned business in Northeast Portland in the 1980s. And the officers who made t-shirts that said, don't smoke them, don't choke them, smoke them, after officers choked a security guard to death in 1985. And a lieutenant who left his position to go to his sister's house and shot a man in 2006, and he was fired by Mayor Potter and reinstated. So we obviously have an issue here, not just with the Portland police and their violence, but with a system of arbitration that allows them to be reinstated after they've done harm to our community. And we have to figure out a way to keep this arbitration from putting these officers back on the streets.
My name is Mark Knutson. I'm senior pastor of Augustana Lutheran Church here in Portland and a member of the Albina Ministerial Alliance Coalition for Justice and Police Reform Steering Committee. And we've been at this work for over 2 decades. When I heard the words "how long," those words continue to echo in our ears. Scripture tells us, what does the Lord require of us but to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with our God, and I'd say to walk humbly with one another as well. Yep. And that is something that not only we as people of faith are called to, but when we think of community policing, can you imagine what it would be like to walk kindly with one another and humbly and to care for one another? Today, we stand here, and it seems like yesterday, January 29th, 2010, when Aaron Campbell stood by his brother's bed as he died. He went home, distraught, feeling suicidal. The family called for help. They called the wrong number. They called for help. They called the wrong number. Because what happened was our police department, that has militarized itself over the years, showed up with great force because he was a black man. Suicidal, distraught. Surrounded that apartment building with tasers, beanbag guns, dogs, sirens, and snipers. He came out of that building distraught, wanting to live, as his family looked on in horror at what awaited him. He walked backwards to the police, following the commands with his hands on his head. He was shot by beanbags. Dogs were released. And if that wasn't enough, one man by the name of Frashauer took it upon himself, the law, and shot Aaron Campbell in the back. Gunned down in cold blood. He did not see a father, a partner, a brother, a son. He saw a black man. As we have seen time and time again in this nation, as we have cried out, Black Lives Matter, that in these shootings by police, there is a complete disregard for the lives of black men and people of color. The city of Portland once has tried to do the right thing by firing